Hello everybody, I am Jeff from Wccftech Reviews, and today we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy V. Now, once you start it, there's an immediate sense of urgency that fills the air when you begin, well, any Final Fantasy game for the most part, and there's this overt sense of doom from something that threatens the very sanctity of existence if you don't take up your chosen position to stop this impending evil. And for the most part, it actually works here, because this is precisely the classic game that tugged at our heartstrings as we struggled, likely for the first time, with the reality, within a game of course, of what an actual tragedy was. Final Fantasy V perhaps helped to start this particular trend, really, building off of the successful predecessors that it had to make a mechanic that's at once frustrating yet also very exciting. Now, the pace of the game, as always, is really kind of decided by you in the end, but it's that sense of dread that always kind of seems to persist in the back of your mind when you're playing. You want to keep going forward, you want to go a little bit faster, though you can, because there's no actual clock or timer. You can take your time if you wanted to. And of course, this helps you and sort of urges you on to go a little bit faster than you might otherwise, which lends to kind of a hectic experience, though nonetheless it's quite fun. Now, in 1992, we saw the inclusion of a job system, and of course the refinement of the active time battle system that was included in Final Fantasy II. Now, all of this together sort of broke the mold for that traditional RPG genre, which, was just birthed, on the console only a few short years before. This job system is very much akin to what we might see as the modern class system in RPGs. All of your characters have their assigned class, which defines the abilities that they can learn later on. Now, in Final Fantasy V, though, those aren't necessarily static, something that does happen in a lot of games even today. You can change it at any time to add different skill sets, and once you set a class, either monk, knight, thief, black mage, white mage, or blue mage, you can earn skill points from every battle and whatnot, and you can use those to spend on those abilities. And when you switch classes, you get to keep, for the most part, those abilities that you had in the previous ones. Now, the best part of all this is being able to customize your character's ability trees with the most potent from all of the classes, combining those for a character that seems almost unstoppable, an unstoppable force for good, because you are the chosen one after all. And so the job system here is actually really well implemented, and very few changes were actually needed to make it relevant for today. So it's a very good system in the modern age on the PC. So despite what you might necessarily think, the job system is a great fit for any RPG, and it's definitely been well preserved here in sort of a museum-like quality that also really does lend to a modern feel. The graphics then here, of course, also seem to have been mostly untouched, except for the obviously, increasing of the resolution of all these textures and the art and whatnot, which is really good. So the artwork retains that same classic, amazing feel you've had from the past, and of course, it's been updated even from the Android and iOS versions to be a higher resolution, and so it's quite nice actually. And this is something that I honestly felt was quite missing from the reboot of Final Fantasy IV, because when they changed that over to those 3D graphics, it sort of lost that traditional feel, and so it wasn't quite the same as it was here. Anyway, part of the draw here is, of course, that fantastic pixel art that we're used to, and those quintessential 2D animations that have been sort of a staple of the earliest of the series. Certainly it's gorgeous in its own right, and the decision to update the art to match the higher resolutions that are available on the PC is really a smart move. And in fact, one of the original artists was actually brought back to help with this, and that is amazing in and of itself. But of course, the real question here with a remake of this sort is whether or not it's actually still fun to play. And quite frankly, of course it is. The storyline is where the magic is at, for many Final Fantasy games, and of course with Final Fantasy V, that still holds true. Though it's a very wild and perhaps far-fetched and eccentric storyline that follows the typical chosen one cliché, it still works very well here, because on a level it's deeply ingrained in the series itself, and of course nostalgia. This is Final Fantasy, and that's what they do. You are the chosen one, you've always been the chosen one. And if it's viewed as anything but that, then you're kind of doing it a great disservice. Now, there were of course some small issues here. And for some reason, it was kind of difficult to play in full-screen resolution mode. Like, it wouldn't actually render it properly. It was sort of offset, and I couldn't actually see anything. But that was okay, because I could play it in windowed mode, and it really didn't hurt the immersion much. It really wasn't that big of a deal. And for some reason, the controls with both the keyboard and mouse, and also the Xbox One controller that I was using, kind of got reset to be blank, which was odd. But it was really easy. All you have to do is click reset, and everything is back to its default again, so it's not that big of a deal. So the game itself is actually pretty damn splendid to actually play. Now, certainly it might seem as if Square Enix here is trying to play upon the excitement that's surrounding the impending Final Fantasy XV launch. And, there's more than really meets the eye here than just that, because re-releasing the classics that are actually enjoyable is a really smart move. Now, we loved them in the past, and they're mostly timeless, and they're still spectacles of enjoyment many years later, and so we still love them. So even though this is sort of timed in a way that it might look like that, and who knows, that may be their internal plan, I don't know, but it still doesn't really matter because it's an amazing, fun game regardless. And so this is not just to speed along that hype machine, but it's instead kind of a gift to anybody who wants to enjoy the entire series on the PC, because they've been slowly releasing these titles, these Final Fantasy titles on PC for quite some time. So the timing could be seen as something when it may not be as something, so just keep that in mind. Now, Final Fantasy V is still a great game and a better RPG than some that have been released even recently. Sure, the graphics could be considered quote-unquote outdated, or these small grammar mistakes, which are, I think, kept for posterity, might be a bit odd, but overall it's a polished and exceptional RPG. And if you actually enjoy playing games, like if you really like to literally play games and not just talk about them, then you might like this, because it has a well-thought-out story with extensive customization and some great character depth. So then Final Fantasy V is a fine RPG, still, and is very much recommended.